Hey guys, Wix100 here, and today I'm going to show you how to use CSS to add some style to your website. So as you can see, I am using the exact same file from the previous tutorial for setting up your website, and today I am just going to add to it with some CSS. So there's two ways you can add CSS to your website. The first one is through a style tag. Just like that. It follows the same rules as any other tag. It's called style, so the first tag you put on is less than, then style, then greater than. And then the second tag for it is less than slash style greater than, open and close. The other method to do this is to have an external CSS file, which is often called a style sheet, and you can link it to your HTML file by doing less than and saying link, and then rel equals style sheet, and then type equals text slash CSS, and then href equals slash assets slash styles slash style.css. Now, technically, this can be anything. It just points to wherever your style sheet is located. Now, since I am not hosting this on a web server, it's just local files, I actually need to remove that slash at the front. So that slash tells it to go to the root directory of whatever web server you're on. Since I'm not on a web server, I'm on my local computer, the root directory is c:\\. That's not where this is located. So I am removing that slash so that it is a relative link, which says that it's going to start in the same folder that the current HTML file is located. Actually, you need to put a slash and then greater than to close this tag. I just realized it was giving an error there. So if you're working on a web server, it's good to have absolute relative. Is that the term? That seems contradictory. It's good to have references relative to the home directory. So in the home directory of the website, which is not the home directory of my computer, you want to create a folder called assets. Again, this is just how I organize things. You can organize it however you want. And then in there, create a new folder called styles. And then in there, new text document style.css. And then if we go back to Visual Studio Code, you can see assets, styles, style.css. Now in the tutorial where I will show how to do images, there will be another folder put into the assets folder called pictures. And then in subsequent tutorials, there might be other folders in there, like scripts for any JavaScript files, or we could have more CSS files in the styles folder, depending on how you want to organize your styles. But for now, we're just going to have this one styles file. So now that this is linked, I'm going to demonstrate one thing for CSS in the style tag, and I'm going to do the rest of it in the style file. So the first one I'm going to do is P. So P is paragraph. That's what this is right here. There are three types of ways you can identify what you want to style in CSS. You can select all elements with that name, so like P curly brace. P just says it's going to be selecting all tags with this for paragraph. So I can have like 10 different P elements, and it's going to modify all of them. And for P, I'm just going to say simply color : white. And so that's going to change all the font of all the paragraph tags to be white. As you can see, I hovered over white and it says RGB 255, 255, 255. That's the color code for white, for those of you who don't know. I can change the color by just dragging this along and whatnot. And it just changed to that. So I'm just going to type white again. You can choose other colors all you want. I just chose white. So in the style that CSS file, I am going to do everything else. So as I showed before, you can select an element. So I just selected body, and I will say background is 12, 12, 12. This is another way to select a color. It's through hex code. You can just Google how to do color hex codes. Most color pickers accept hex codes. If you hover over this, you can choose a color. I spelled background wrong. There we go. And so that's how you change the background. There's also background color as an option, or background image. And I will have another tutorial to go over the different uses of the different background types. And I will do font family sans serif. Now, that won't really show a change for me because my browser, the default font family is sans serif, but some browsers might have serif as default. So sans serif is like Arial or Verdana, where there's no little overhangs. Serif is like Times New Roman, where it has little overhangs and decorative features. I don't like Times New Roman. I'm sticking with sans serif. Then there is classes. So I am going to modify the class of all of these, which actually I forgot to remove. So no Windows, I don't want to change my language. I will remove that. And remove that. That's from my testing earlier. So to change the class, I'm going to do Alt-Shift so that I can type on all these lines at once. You just want to type class equals. What is that? My keyboard switched to Russian. I don't want to do Russian. Okay. Class equals. And then I will call it headers. So what a class is I can make any number of any type of elements part of the class, or part of the headers class. And it's just coincidentally that I'm making them all headers because that's the ones I chose. So if I put a dot before my selector, that selects the class of that name. So any element part of that class. And I'm just going to say color red. And so the final selector, or actually I'm going to go over two more selectors. The one is kind of a sub-selector. So the next main type of selector is an ID. So ID equals, I'm just going to call this my link. As far as I know, you're only allowed to have one object with a certain ID. I don't know what happens if you have multiple, but I think it's designed to be for one object. That's like naming this specific link my link. And so in the style, I'm going to do hashtag or pound sign or number sign, whatever you want to call it, and say my link. And then say color RGB 255, 255, 255, which we've already established is white. I'm just showing you the third way to select a color in CSS. And that's actually all I'm going to do with that. And then the next selector is, I say it's a sub-selector because I'm going to select my link again, but I'm going to say colon hover, and then say color pound sign 00FF60, and then background pound sign 242424. And what that is going to do is it's going to select the element with the ID of my link whenever my cursor is hovering over it. So if I open up the index HTML file that we were working with, which I already have open, and if I hit refresh, it changed the background to 121212 in hex. It changed the headers to have red color. It changed the font to be sans serif, which you can't tell the difference because it was already sans serif per my browser default. And then it made it so that if I hover over this, the text turns green. It turns my shade of green, and the background is 242424, which that's hard to see. So I am going to change this to be, whoa, it just switched to HSL. I don't use HSL. So let's say RGB 128, 128, 128, which is half brightness for red, green, and blue. So I refresh, and that's what? Oh, 218. Let's change that to 128. Now it should work. There, now it's gray. It's more visible that it's changing. So as you can see, all of these have taken effect, and this in the style tag. I only recommend using the style tag if you only want to change something for that specific HTML file, because otherwise you're going to have to keep copying the code. So if you want to modify more than one file, I recommend using a link with a CSS file. It's just a lot easier. So hope you guys enjoyed. Hit the like button down below, hit subscribe. Till next time, bye.